Okay, class, here's some brief guidelines about how to do an excellent job on the first exam. I'm starting with the directions. The questions are above, but let's start with the directions. First of all, you don't have to write a lot. There's 5 questions. You don't have to write a lot. And so I say write brief, clear, succinct answers. You need write no more than 2 paragraphs per question. Make sure your writing is grammatical and spell checked. That's pretty clear, obviously. By the way, you can type single space too. That doesn't bother me. There's no right or wrong answer. You are being judged on the quality of your thinking in response to these concept-laden questions. So you probably have gathered by now that argumentation is a very theoretical discipline, has a lot of concepts. The very nature of the subject matter means that everything's arguable, so obviously the concepts of argumentation themselves are arguable. There's no true or false answer. I mean, you could have a matter of fact or just something that's misstated. For example, you could misstate the definition of an analogy or induction or something like that. But as far as what you're actually arguing or suggesting or defending, no right or wrong answer. I'm just looking at how good a job you are defending your answers to the questions. Please try to use your own words, concepts, and examples. Don't just copy or paraphrase what is in the text or jump on the internet. I'm familiar with almost every source and site that exists in the world about argumentation, so if you submit something that's not your own, I'll know immediately. So you don't want to plagiarize or copy or borrow. Just do it yourself. I'll give you the full benefit of the doubt. I know we're going through this course quickly, and I'm not going to be heavy-handed in the way I grade in that regard. I am more interested in examining the results of your own critical thinking. My advice would be not to do the whole exam at once, as coming back to it from time to time might give you a fresh perspective. However, it is only 5 questions and they're short answers, and you might be of a mind that I could just go right through this. You, of course, can refer to your book or my lectures or notes or anything else you find in writing these answers. That's fine. I only ask that it be your own work and that you submit it by email by any time on Monday. And, of course, you can call me or email me if you have any questions. My preference is if you have a question about the exam, you post it on Blackboard on the discussion board under the questions about the course topic, and I will answer it so everybody can see and we can all benefit from that. So let me jump up to the top here and I'll go quickly through the questions. First one is a student in this class is claiming that his arguments are rational because he is using evidence. Do you agree or disagree with this? Why or why not? Very basically, this has to go with some of the early concepts about what the nature of argumentation is, and one of the initial characteristics of argumentation that we laid out is that it's rational. And so I'm asking you, does the fact that the student's using evidence entail the idea of argument being rational? So is he right in saying that, or is he not right in saying that? I only ask that you defend one or the other, not both. Don't give me both sides of the issue. Just say why and your reasons, or say why not and your reasons, but don't do both. Another student submits a paper to a professor. It is well reasoned, has good sources, and is on topic. In fact, it meets all requirements for the assignment. In other words, this isn't a trick question like that she handed it in late or something like that. She is surprised that the professor gives it a low grade. Is there something the student has overlooked? And again, something that she's overlooked in the nature of argumentation, right? For example, she didn't overlook that it had to be in English, right? Nothing like that. Okay, number 3, provide an example of a situation where persuasion takes place without argumentation and or where argumentation takes place without persuasion, or the possibility of persuasion. So let me give you an example of this. Let's say I'm in my office, it's right before Christmas, you've just taken a class with me, and you need a slightly higher grade on one of your assignments in order to move to the next highest grade in the class. So you're like between a B and a B+. And you know that one of the assignments I graded very harshly, and that if I would add a half-letter grade to that assignment, it would bring up your whole grade and you'd get the B+. You have a very good argument all ready for that, and you're going to show that the thing that I graded harshly was actually better. Some of the things that later I gave higher grades. So you have a very good argument all planned. You know it's going to work on me because I'm into argument. Okay? And your goal, of course, is to persuade me. So you walk up to my office and you say, "Hey, Dr. Weiss, I wanted to talk to you about my grade on this paper." And I just look at the paper, I don't even read it or even hear your argument, and I say, "Oh, I'll change that grade." In other words, I'm just in the kind of mood where I'm feeling generous and I like you and I respect your work and I realize that when I graded that I was probably a little harsh, etc., etc., etc. I'm giving you all these scenarios that might be true. They're not necessarily characteristics of me. I'm just telling you. And so I changed the grade. Okay? So if persuasion is to achieve a goal that you want, to have an outcome you want, to persuade somebody to do something, you did that, and you did that without ever making your argument. Okay? Now, let's say the same situation transpired. You made the argument, and I said after you made the argument, "Wow, that is a really good argument. You're making a lot of sense, but I don't change grades." So in that case, you make a very good argument, and persuasion doesn't take place, but that doesn't in any way undermine the idea that it was a good argument. Now, one other thing. Let's say we combine the two scenarios. You make the argument, and I do change the grade. But how do you know that I changed the grade because of the argument that you made? For example, let's say I changed the grade because it's Christmas and I'm feeling in the Christmas spirit, and I decided, "Oh, well, that's a nice student. I think I'll give him a Christmas present and raise his grade." So you see that you can't really make any possible necessary connection between persuading and argument. But we do know that these things happen all the time. So what I want you to do is, in your own life, either real, something you experienced, or hypothetical, something that you would make up. Give an example of that, but don't use my example, okay? Come up with your own example. All right, some would say because arguments need to be logical that there's a little difference between studying logic and argumentation. What do you think? So I would say the best way to approach answering this question is to look at Chapter 4, because Chapter 4 gets into the whole issue of why is logic important in argumentation and why do we need to study or know something about logic or be logical to make arguments. But at the same time, I'm arguing that studying argument is not logic, that studying logic is a different topic than studying argument, because there are other dimensions of argument that are not in logic, and there are formal aspects of logic that are either so complex or so difficult that we could never address them in the context of real-world argumentation, because there would be no way to transfer or translate formal logical systems into real-world or ordinary language arguments that we could analyze. So I want you to weigh in on that issue as well. Finally, I had you watch this Finkelstein debate. I'm going to correct the spelling right here. It's Finkelstein Dershowitz. And there's an extra space here. Okay. So having watched the Finkelstein Dershowitz debate, what aspect of argumentation would you say is best demonstrated by this debate? Some possible things to consider would be the rules of argument, evidence, clash, burden of going forward, grounding, judge, moderator, resolution, fairness, etc. I mean, we've talked about so many things already that are the characteristics of argument, and there's so many things going on in this debate. It's just kind of a gold mine of examples. So you don't have to go with this list. These are just that I threw out as an example. You can pick up any concept or idea about argument that's in any of the first 4 chapters and say, boy, this debate is a great example of how this principle or this concept of argumentation is true or is evidenced, and just go with that. And I just think it's great. I mean, for example, one of the things that's really very apparent to me in that argument is that they don't like each other. They don't get along. There's a lot of enmity there. So the question is, if argument is rational, right, how much can you check your emotion or your dislike for somebody at the door in order to engage in a rational enterprise? And how much can we cross the line between what is a legitimate attack as opposed to what is a personal attack? So when somebody's using terms like fraud and hoax and plagiarism and saying that somebody isn't qualified to teach somewhere, where do you draw the line? That's just one example of what I'm talking about, but you can go anywhere you want with that. And you can even get into the issues themselves of the whole, what's going on in Israel and what kind of evidence do we accept about that. Okay, so anyway, those are some suggestions about the test. I will now be uploading the test to Blackboard, so it'll be there under the assignments. And again, feel free to contact me, especially via the Blackboard discussion group, about this so that we can get this all squared away. And I hope you enjoy writing the exam and have a good weekend and good luck with it. Just email it to me anytime by Monday. By any time on Monday. Thanks. Have a great weekend.